Hey fellow backyard boyers, Nick here. Now recently I've been getting into a lot of blacksmithing and bladesmithing, and to practice I've been doing a lot of work with rebar. So today I'm going to show you how I made this knife out of a piece of 5/8 inch steel rebar without any power tools. So let's get started. I'm going to be forging this knife out of a 5-inch piece of rebar, and I'm going to be keeping it attached to the rest of the bar so it's easy to work with. Though if you wanted to, you could always use a piece of rebar held in a pair of tongs. Now it's time to fire up the forge. The forge I'm using today is a simple one. It's basically just a stack of red clay bricks. Once it gets up to temperature, I place the rebar in and let it get up to a dull yellow, bright orange color. I then take it over to the anvil, and after straightening it out, I start flattening out what will become the blade. Once I've got it established, I do most of my work on the curved edge of the anvil. That way I can create a nice transition between blade and handle. Once that's done, I start working on the point. I'm going to be completely forging this knife without grinding, so the first thing I'm doing with the point is making sure that I don't have any cold shuts. I'm being careful to push the metal in rather than push it back right away. Now that the shape of the point is established, I start working on drawing out the rest of the knife. Right now it's about 3/16 of an inch thick, and I want it to be about 1/8 of an inch thick, tapering down to the end, and I also want the sides of the knife to taper down just as if I had beveled it. So I'm just hammering, all the while trying to keep the back straight to negate the curve that happens when the belly is beveled. Once I'm happy with the shape of the blade, I take a wire brush, brush off the scale, and then with a hammer that has a polished face, I go for a final time, flattening out the blade and getting out all of the little dents and divots to smooth it out and give it a nice finish. I then heat up the transition between blade and handle and force the blade forward on the rounded edge of the anvil to round it out and give the finger area a nice transition. Once I'm happy with the transition between blade and handle, I use the rounded edge of the anvil to gently put a curve in the handle so that it'll fit the hand better. Once it cools, I cut it off at about 5 inches with a hacksaw. I then finish off the end of the handle by hammering it out into a wedge shape. With the polished hammer, I make sure that my edges are smooth and everything lines up. At this point, the edges are about 1/16 of an inch thick. I then heat up the knife again and use steel punches to put my initials into the blade. Once the knife is cooled down, I use a file just to smooth out the edge and make sure that it looks good. This is the only grinding I'm going to be doing on this knife. I then put it back into the forge until the blade no longer sticks to a magnet. Take it a little bit beyond that and then I quench the blade in brine, which is just a little bit of water with some salt added. I'm only quenching the edge because I want the back and the rest of the knife to stay relatively soft. I then use progressively finer sandpaper to sharpen up the edge. There's not a lot of work to do because we've got it down so fine already. Then I put it in vinegar for about 2 hours to get the forge scale off. Once it comes out of the vinegar, I wipe it clean and then just give it a couple more swipes on a high grit sandpaper to sharpen it. Here's the knife all finished up. I hope you enjoyed building this along with me today, and if you have any suggestions for other builds you'd like to see, please let me know in the comments. If you like this video, I've got lots of other videos on my channel, and if you'd like to support the channel, I've decided to do something a little bit different, and I've got a bunch of these up for sale. So you can check those out, and some of the books I've written in the links below. So as always, thanks for watching, be safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.